Well, good afternoon and welcome back. It's been another couple of weeks, as you can see, mountains. So I'm in Austria. I'm not in Italy yet, but the sun is back. It's now early March, and the kids have decided that we're going to build a window for the kitchen out there because how hard can it possibly be to build a window? And they are incredibly expensive. I looked that up. So we've been to the DIY store, picked up some wood. I've got a miter saw, a hand miter saw, and a router inside. So I'm just going to start and I'll explain to you what we want to do. So I'm going to build a frame out of this with this on top. So this will be the sort of edge, and the hinges will go there. And then the first part of the window frame will be another one of these, so that if we look then from the inside, it'll be like this. And from the outside, turn the whole thing over, we'll have this, and then we'll have the rest of the frame come out from there. So I'm going to draw you a picture. So as simple as a window can be, really. That's basically it. So frame, and then two window elements that will open inwards, and each will have two panes of glass. So the first thing to do is to build the frame, and I took pictures last time I was there, so I have the exact measurements, and they are 79 by 97. So that's the first thing to do, is to cut two of the wider bits of wood to 79 and two to 97 and cut them square. So there's our frame. That's the size of the window, and now I'm going to tenon the ends here so that they slot together, and then we'll do exactly the same in the smaller ones over there. Well, as usual, I'm making a bit of a mess, but if you look, I've done the tenons on this. I set up it took a bit of faffing about, so there's a little corner there, but it'll be fine. This one I did with a saw, and then I set up the router actually to exactly the right depth, and I just skinned those other three off in less time than it took me to do that one with the saw. So I'm going to do that here now as well. There it is, another Lidl special. I'll just zap those four off there, and then we can move on to these bits where we have to do the slot, and then hopefully I quite like to get it all slotted together this evening before I knock off. The sun is going closer and closer to the mountains where it eventually disappears. But if I could get that first frame glued and in the jig, that would be great. Well, there we go. After a lot of faffing about, that's pretty much done according to my square clamps. It's square. I've marked them up 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I'm going to glue and then clamp, and that'll be it for today. As you can see, the sun has disappeared behind the mountains. Helper with the glue is here, so ready to go. And there we go. That is it for today. And it's square according to my 4 brackets, and it's the right size, so it's a very good start. It was 1,000 times more difficult than I thought it was going to be, and there will be a lot of sort of wood filler in these gaps. That was pretty good actually. Over here, dramatically bad, but on the whole, for the outer frame, that'll do. Tomorrow I think we might do it slightly differently, but there we go. It's glued, it's clamped, so now I'm just going to leave it alone and tidy up a little bit, and we'll see. Okay, well, here we are. It's the next morning. As you can see, it's slightly more overcast today, and my hair's all over the place, but this is now dried out. And it's time to get on to the next step. I measured both the diagonals and they're the same length, so it is square. These little Amazon specials do seem to have worked, and it's great. So it's the right size. What we need now is the step of the frame. So I'll show you what I mean on that in a second. So I have another little helper today, and what we're going to do is we're going to build another frame inside here with this smaller wood, and the window will then go here, so it's shut against this. Oops. So that's basically going to be cutting that down. Obviously all of this will be planed off with the electric planer at the end, but we need to make it square, and basically once all the way around, but instead of tenon-ing this second bit, I'm going to cut 45-degree angles, because the structure is here, and then we'll screw everything together. So there we go, that was pretty quick. There's 2 there and 2 there. Get them square again with these, lay it over, and then I'm going to screw down. Okay, so there's our next frame. My motor saw doesn't seem to be perfectly 45 degrees everywhere. There are little gaps, but it's pretty good. So now it's a matter of getting it lined up, clamping it down, gluing it, and then screwing through, and that will be our window frame. Hinges on the edges, and it should be perfect. And there they are on top of each other, so that's a perfect line. And that also, as you can see, it's pretty good. Clamped up and glued. And now I am going to screw through from the inside to the out, and then maybe from the outside to the in, we'll see. But first of all, I'm going to get some screws through here. Okay, and there we go. That's now countersunk and screwed down, and that's our perfect outside frame. So let me find some offcuts and I'll show you what I want to do next. Okay, so the sides of the window and the top and bottom are going to be made of this again, which is the same as the lower bit. So it'll stick out to there, and obviously it'll be sort of routed like that, and then cut in here for the glass, and then a cross section in the middle like this. It's quite convenient that my barbecue works as a jig for this. So like that, and top and bottom will probably be this again. So I now need to make another 2 rectangles basically out of this and this, and then make sure that they fit. So I'm going to have to cut into them. So I need to make the first one a little bit wider. In the middle, basically, I don't think I've got enough wood actually. I wanted this on one. Oh, I do. I might do. No, I don't. This is all I have of the Thursday stuff. I seem to have underbought that and bought lots of the long stuff. Oh well. That'll have to go up the middle, and we'll have to get another bit of wood on one side, or in fact probably on both sides, and be cut out like this and like that so that it slots in together. Okay, so I've just gone back and I'm looking at old videos. So we've basically just built this frame here now. Our overlap is slightly bigger than it is there, and now I need to go and find the two window panes and see how they set up. And there we go. So they're basically identical there, and then one of them has an additional overlap on the outside, but I think I might step them anyway. But yeah, the sides, so the side bit is going to be a little bit wider, but not massively wider. I think it'll look fine, especially once we've done this this sort of routing. But I don't know if I'll go for the 1/4, 3/4 window layout, or if I'll just make it square in the middle. I'll have to think about that. And then I've got a mechanism like this out there on a set of old broken windows, so I should be able to recoup that. And I've got some hinges here, so that should be fine. So basically, yeah, I need to make two identical squares, and they both need, or rectangles, and they both need to be slightly larger than the hole. On this one, in fact, they sort of sit over, that's what the overlap is, but mine will sit flush with the inside of the frame. Okay, so now that I've sat down, thought, and looked at the old windows, the total width is 71, the total height is 88.4 inside. So I'm going to make 36.5 by 88.2, or as close as I can get to that. And I'm going to make a first frame, just a square first, with half overlaps. So that should work quite well, hopefully. This is drying and is screwed anyway, so I can probably get rid of these clamps in a minute, and then use them on the little frame. So I need some bits of wood. We're going wide at the top and at the bottom, and on the outside, and thin on the middle. Sorry about the noise, a lot of airplanes flying in and out. It's still, I don't know how, but it's ski season, there's barely any snow. I've cut my 4 bits, so now I'm going to get the pencil, mark them up, and then the router, and chop them down and try and make a nice square out of them. And then we should have our first window pane sort of thing. Yeah, there we go. So quick break now. Take the kids to the playground out in the woods, and then get back, do some more window later on, and some cooking. You can see by the mess I've been making, I've been using the router with a square bit to dig out the ends of these. So they're not perfect, but they're pretty good. Certainly a lot better than they would have been if I'd done any other way. But there we go, there's our first window pane. Obviously we'll route down the edges of this afterwards as well, so I'm not too concerned about that. That'll all disappear, and then on the inside too. But what I'm going to do now is make it square, make sure it's level and flat, which it is there, but it isn't quite there, it sticks up a bit. So in fact you can see that wasn't quite done properly, and then I'm going to glue it and fix it, and that'll probably be it for today, this week. The middle bar I'm going to add at the end, I'm probably going to sort of V it in and stick it. So yeah, there we go. I'm going to tidy this up and then get the whole thing glued and screwed. And there we go. It's glued. I'm going to put some screws in the corners now just to make sure it holds properly. Right, that's pretty good. Obviously it'll all be sanded and what have you at the end, but yeah, it's pretty good. Definitely acceptable for this. It's not like a super important window. It'll be in a corner in the kitchen, and well, I can say I made it myself and be saved many hundreds of euros. There we go, that's it for today. But you can certainly get a feel for... Okay, well, another week has gone by and here I am. The sun is still shining. There is less and less snow up on top of the mountains. Spring is definitely here. My window frame is down there inside, and the first leaf that we finished last week is here, and then I'm going to reproduce this one identically, and then I'll have two leaves that are slightly too wide, and then we'll sort of cut like a step into them, and hopefully then they'll shut properly. So I'm just going to get straight on with it and basically use this as a jig. Here's my 2 bits of wood, basically cut, route and screw exactly as we did the other side. So I've got my 4 bits of wood more or less cut and marked up. My mitre box seems to be, I don't know what's going on when I cut through it many times, but it doesn't seem to go square for some reason. So I'm missing my my clever saw, but there we go, that's out in Italy, and I want to get this done before I go out, so I don't have to do it when I'm there. Basically, it's time saving. So yeah, now I'm going to get the router out as I did last time, set the depth to exactly half the width of the bit of wood, and then yeah, and then we'll just cut in. It worked really well last time, to be honest, and hopefully it'll work just as well this time. I'm going to pre-cut with the mitre saw a little groove in each one to give it a nice straight edge, so that I know what I'm going up against with the router, and that's pretty quick and quite efficient. I mean, it makes a pretty nice frame. It'll certainly do. Obviously there's a lot of wood filler and stuff that goes in, but there always is when I do something. So yeah, that's the next step. Okay, well, I got 3 out of 4, they're fine, but then I massacred this one completely, unfortunately, so I'm going to have to do this again, but I do have some spare wood, so that's not a problem. I'll get on and do that quickly now, and then we can put the frame on the jig and get it glued. And there we go, another 4 bits done. Time to get them glued and get the clamps on them, and then once they're set up, a couple of screws through each one, just like on the other side, and that will be our 2 sides, which is perfect. And then I can start setting up the one that's already glued and dried, with a middle bar and routering around the outside. Okay, so I just put a bar in the middle. It's just screwed through from both sides. It doesn't have any real structural importance to the frame, hopefully. And obviously I'll be filling all of this up and sanding it and everything before paint, but paint won't happen till Italy. I'm just building a window now, and then the fitting it, sanding it. I will do the filling probably here though, which is just going to be this mixed with wood glue, or the finer bits of this. I'll run it through the sieve. So next up is going to be deciding, and I'm going to have a quick look online to see if I've got this right, which side I'm going to fit the glass from. So on most of the windows that I've restored so far in the house, the glass was fitted from the inside, and I think that's the way I'm going to do it as well. So that means what I need, 2 things. From the outside, I'm going to make a moulding about halfway down, all the way around. I'll show you that. So that's this. We're going to set the depth there. Oops. And then the little bit on the end rotates and follows along the wood, and that'll be the depth of the cut. So that'll basically go there, and we'll run once round. I'm going to do a test on this bit of wood up here to get the depth right first, and then I'm going to go all the way around both of the frames. So that gives this. You can see the little line where it rolls along, and it just sort of gives the moulding all the way around. So you can't really do much wrong as long as you keep it flat, I think. So that's hopefully what's going to happen now. Is I'm going to go around the edge, the inside edge of both of these with that, and it'll look a lot more like a window afterwards, hopefully. So not perfect, but nothing I ever do is, and yet looks great, and it certainly looks a lot like the ones that are there, and that's really the most important thing for me. So now what I need to do is somehow, with the router as well, and a square bit is cut like a chunk out again all the way around, which the glass will then sort of glaze up against. So again, set the depth, but this time, because this one doesn't have a clever wheel on the end of it, and they don't have these are the ones that I have, and the square ones don't seem to have wheels on the end except this one, and I'm not quite sure what that one's for. Seems it has a wheel on the end, but what I do have is sort of like a spacer thing. Let me set that up. Okay, well, I was looking at this, and this is basically for spacing the router off the edge of the bit of wood, but it's never going to work because I'll never get anywhere near the corners. So I had a look online, and in fact there is basically this with a square shank and a variable size of bearing on top of it. So I've just ordered that off Amazon, and that will just be identical to the other side, and I'll just have to square the edges then with a chisel. So that's excellent. Right, so this window frame over here has been screwed and is drying, and what I'm going to do now is exactly the same thing as I did here. I'm going to put the middle bar in, measure it up, get the middle bar in, and then route around the outside of the window, as long as it's set up and it's the same depth and everything, and then it'll be a matter of getting the hinges on and getting it in the frame, which is there. And there you go, one raw window. So when I line everything up, that's the overlap we have, and that's the bit that's going to be stepped to keep it sort of warm, because obviously we have a step here, but we don't here, so it'll basically be angled in and cut through, and that'll probably be the same bit that I'm going to use to cut the back bits here to put the glass in. So so there's only a couple of things really left for me to do here until that turns up. The first is going to be to put the hinges on, which are here, so I can get that set up, but that shouldn't be too complicated. Famous last words. And then to mix the wood putty from the sawdust and fill all of these little gaps and everything that I've messed up, of which there is quite a lot. And then hopefully we can just call it a day, and that'll be that. So brilliant. So here it's really just a question of marking them up. We've got the other side in, and cutting out with a chisel space for both sides. Everything will get a good sand. I mean, it looks terrible at the moment, but in the end it'll probably look quite good. Once it's painted, you won't really notice much, I don't think. So yeah, same on this side. I'm just going to get them knocked in, and then both of the bits will be hung, and I'll start fillering. And there we go. Look at that. Well, it doesn't look bad. I mean, obviously that still needs finishing up so that it closes. That would be a big plus point. But the hinges are in. They look pretty good. It opens and closes. It obviously needs some sanding and what have you. And now it needs a lot of fillering. But other than that, I'm pretty happy. Okay, well, I've just taken a couple of handfuls of the finest sawdust that I can pick up sort of easily here. Underneath it is quite fine. There are still a few big bits. And I'm going to mix that with some wood glue, which I had a second ago, which is over here, and make a wood paste, and then fill out the holes as if it was plaster. So we might have to do this a couple of times, but here it goes. And there we go. I only have to tidy up now, so obviously it looks terrible, but it needs sanding afterwards, and it'll be more or less the same finish. In fact, I've just forgotten to do these 2 holes at the top and the 2 holes at the bottom, and then I'm finished. But everything else is sort of pretty good. Yeah, excellent. So let me do those 4 holes, tidy up a bit, and then I'll come back and say goodbye. Okay, well, that's going to be it for today. As you can see, we have a window. It's all set up. The glue is, well, the putty paste that I made is drying. And the next time you see this window, it'll be hopefully while I'm installing it in the kitchen in Italy. But we've answered the question, can you make a window on your balcony over a weekend? No, 2 weekends. Is it going to be perfect? No, but I think it's going to look great, and I think once it's painted, it'll fit beautifully into the rest of the house. So I, for one, super happy with that. Really, I am. Yeah, I think it's great. I'm surprised at how nice it's ended up. So there we go. I'm going to leave it out here to dry properly, and then I'll probably bring it in. I haven't got an electric sander here, and I'm not going to hand sand it, so it'll go pretty much as it is, wrapped up to Italy, hopefully in about a fortnight's time. So there we go. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this short update. I look forward to being back in Italy at the latest at Easter. I hope you're all well, and those of you that do Lent or whatever else are not suffering too much. Yeah, so from here, from not so sunny anymore, but not very snowy either. Austria, thank you very much. Take care, and bye bye for now.